We're going to start in a minute here. Woohoo! Yay, San Francisco! You guys are awesome. There's so much energy and heart here today. Thank you all so much for coming out. I'm Stacy Malkin. I'm the media director for the California Right to Know initiative to label genetically engineered foods. And we are thrilled to announce today that we are turning in a huge number of signatures, 971,121 signatures. Yeah. To put the California Right to Know initiative on the ballot in November. And this monumental achievement really has to do with the work of so many volunteers and petitioners across this state. Many of them mothers and grandmothers, farmers and fishermen, senior citizens, students, all out on the streets talking to people about how we have the right to know what's in our food, what's in we eat and what's in the food that we eat, that we feed our children. And this right to know has overwhelming support across the political spectrum. 91% of voters in the United States, according to a recent Mellman poll, agree that they want to know if their food contains genetically engineered ingredients. And as Mellman wrote in a recent article, it's hard to find issues outside of motherhood and apple pie that can muster 90% of support in the United States, but we found one. Voters express almost unanimous support for the mandatory labeling of genetically engineered foods. So that support, your dedication, that's going to bring us to victory in November. And I want to extend a huge thank you and congratulations to all of the volunteers and petition gatherers here today who undertook this massive effort, and we know it wasn't easy to bring in nearly 1 million signatures in just a 10-week period in California. Yeah. So today across the state we're holding victory rallies, and as I said, we're going to be filing over 970,000 petitions in 58 counties across California. So that is thanks to the work of all of you, and I just want to thank you, each and every one of you, for the heart and the passion that you bring every day to building this movement and for fighting for our right to know. So, for more information about the initiative, please check out our website, carighttoKnow.org. And we're going to hear from some amazing folks right now, just a few short speeches, and then we hope you all join us in our victory march around the corner to file the tens of thousand petition signatures that we gathered in San Francisco, that you all gathered at the county office just around the corner. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce you to, I'm going to tell you just real quickly who we'll hear from. We're going to hear from Pam Larry, I'll tell you a little bit more about Pam in a minute. We're going to hear from Albert Strauss, the president of Strauss Family Creamery. And they're so wonderfully giving out genetically engineered ingredient-free ice cream right here. So everybody please get some ice cream. Also Zeke Grader, the executive director of the Pacific Coast Federation of Fishermen Associations. And also Rachel Pachivas, who's our Bay Area regional coordinator for the Right to Know initiative. All right, so now, next up, I want to introduce you to a person who has been inspirational with her energy, her heart, her enthusiasm in building this movement from the grassroots, and that's Pam Larry. Pam is a former midwife, a farmer. She's a mom and a grandmother. She's a longtime Chico resident, and she initiated the California Right to Know campaign through her amazing group, Label GMOs.
Thanks, you guys. It's so wonderful seeing all of you here. This initiative was actually born in this beautiful city of San Francisco on a visit one day in January 2011. It was born out of a deep frustration that our government's elected officials and their appointed agencies had not listened to countless polls for over a decade that told them that over 90% of their constituents wanted genetically engineered foods labeled. It came out of a deep conviction that parents have a right to know what we're feeding our children and ourselves. It came out of a passionate conviction that the right to know what we're purchasing and eating supersedes corporate rights to a non-transparent profit. As I could see that no government agency or legislative body would ever give us what we the people wanted, I decided on that morning that it was time to invoke the right of the people of California to stand up and demand what over 50 countries with over 40% of the world's population have. We want genetically engineered foods labeled. Since that day, I've traveled around the state asking folks to join first me, then us. I found mothers, fathers, grandfathers, young people, and all folks in between who got the spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, something could be done to counter corporate control of our food system. These folks, many of them now friends, stood in the rain to gather our required number of signatures. Let's talk about those signature gatherers. Farmers, scientists, moms and their kids stood outside grocery stores. Healthcare practitioners and folks of all faiths stood at farmers markets with their petitions and their volunteer buttons. We even had quite a few genetic engineers out there on the streets, believe it or not, gathering signatures because, as they told me, these things definitely need to be labeled and I'm willing to work for it. Many of my new friends have volunteered their time for over a year now. Some of them are working the equivalent of a full-time job. They caught the spark and are out there spreading the word that there's hope in California to get what so many have desperately wanted for so long. We have over 130 leaders in communities all over the state that have thousands of folk from every persuasion telling their communities the truth about this initiative and who is opposing it because they have a profit margin to protect. After a very long time out there alone on the streets, wondering where this would go, we are now blessed to have consumer groups, conscious businesses, nonprofits, and alternative health people backing us because we showed them that we wanted this. We were willing to work with it, and we needed their help. All of us have an undying gratitude for them because they have no profit incentive in supporting us. They don't get to write off their donations. They just have a desire to do the right thing and to give back to the customers who have trusted them all these years. I'm asking the people of this state to join us, to consider who is for this initiative and who is against it and what their motivation might be. I ask you to listen to your instincts and remember you have a right to know what you're spending your money on and feeding your children. I hear all over the state this question: why is this even an issue? What are our opponents so afraid of? Why do they not want us to know what they're selling us? If their products are so great, why not label them and advertise them? If they're afraid that telling the truth about their products will decrease demand for us, what kind of an ethical business model are they showing us? Do we want our children to learn that the only way that you can make money is to hide the truth? We're up against some pretty big players in this, you guys. It's been a scary adventure for this grandmother from Chico, let me tell you. But we, the people, will not back down. We want labeling. To get labeling will take a universal village to win, but the message I want to be very clear about is this. Not only can we do this, but we are doing this. Just a little over a year ago, one person, me, started this against all odds, with no funding, with no experience, with no help, or any kind of an idea where this would go. And look at us today. We have gathered almost 1 million signatures in 10 weeks. Okay, 10 weeks. We are now a full-on we, and I can say with joy in my heart, and I've been crying lots today, that we are confident we will be on the ballot in November and that we will win with your continued support, actions, and commitment. Why? Because this is the right thing for California and it's time. Please join us. I'd like to introduce Albert Strauss, the president of Strauss Family Creamery, a small family-owned organic creamery on the shores of Tamales Bay, and some of my favorite people on the planet.
Today we celebrate that almost 1 million people in California have spoken up and demanded the labeling of genetic engineered food. This makes me very happy because genetic engineered food is an issue very close to my heart. I never believed that GMOs had a place on my farm or at my creamery. I became an organic farmer because I wanted to make healthy, organic dairy products for people. I wanted them to know that our products are made with respect for animals and land. I believe that people have a right to know where their food comes from. If this initiative succeeds in November, it will be a huge step in that direction. Our dairy has been certified organic for nearly 20 years. The more I try to define what sustainability means to me on my farm, the more I become concerned about GMOs. 7 years ago, I found that some certified organic feeds were contaminated with GMOs. Since GMOs are not allowed under organic standards, I had to do something about it. So I started a GMO testing program at the farm and creamery. I convinced a local mill to source verified non-GMO feed for our cows. All our ingredients for our organic dairy products are now tested for GMOs. And we require that the 4 other dairy farms that we work with be verified non-GMO. Sometimes when you're doing things on your own, it feels like being in a vacuum. It's great to know that so many people in California understand the issue of GMOs. Knowing that they value foods that come from organic family farms keeps me going, doing what I believe in. When the non-GMO project verification became, Strauss Family Creamery became the first non-GMO verified dairy and creamery in the United States. If you want to know today if GMOs are in your food, you have to look for organic certification or non-GMO project verification. It is time to expand that. If mandatory GMO labeling becomes California law, consumers will be able to make informed choices about the foods that they buy. Almost 1 million people have spoken up and have asked for the right to know what is in their food. This is very empowering. The California Right to Know campaign has achieved a very significant victory for consumers in California. Consumers make change happen in our food system in this country. We have a right to know what's in our food. We have a fundamental right to know that what we're eating and what we're feeding our children. GMO labeling will empower farmers and families to make healthier and safer choices and to educate their communities. Thank you. The next speaker is Zeke Grader, is Executive Director of the Pacific Coast Federation of Fishermen's Associations. Zeke?